Now I'd like to demonstrate the use of an angle gauge to measure whether a tree is in or out of your variable radius plot. So this is a pretty handy angle gauge that will give us 4 different basal area factors. This narrow part here corresponds to a 5 basal area factor. The middle part here corresponds to a 10 basal area factor. And the bottom part here corresponds to a 20 basal area factor. And then if we hold it sideways like this, from right to left corresponds to a 40 basal area factor. When using the angle gauge, we've got this part of the angle gauge right here. This is actually supposed to go in your teeth, but we're not going to do that for class. We'll sanitize these very well, and we'll just hold it a short distance from your face. So you'll find the center of your point and place the angle gauge over the center of your point. Importantly, you are not the center, the angle gauge is the center. Okay? You're going to hold this close to your face, and then the chain here tells you how far away to hold it. And you're going to look through this, and you're going to find trees, and you're going to look at the trees through the angle gauge. Remember, the angle gauge is the middle. You are not the middle. Okay, so what are we looking at through the angle gauge? We're looking at whether the tree is wider or narrower than the edges of the angle gauge. So, for the sake of example, let's pretend we're doing a 10 basal area factor timber cruise, okay? And we're going to look through this tree, okay? We're going to look through the angle gauge at the tree. The way I've got the angle gauge right now suggests that the tree is out, okay? So you would not measure this tree in your variable radius plot. We're going to pretend we take the angle gauge away. We're now pointing it at another tree. Remember, the angle gauge is your center. The tree is not your center. Now, can you see how that tree is actually wider than the limits presented by the 10 basal area factor prism? That means that your tree is in, and you will measure the diameter at breast height of that tree. Now, there's going to be some situations where the tree is what we call borderline, where it seems to exactly line up, like I'm trying to do right here. In this case, you're going to go ahead and you're going to measure that tree. Later on, what you're going to do is you're going to discard exactly half of those borderline cases and use only half of those borderline cases when calculating things like basal area.